I was really sad when you said I couldn't use green font.
Oh, you can still use it if you so desire. We will allow you.
But it won't be accessible for most of them.
It's true. No, this is true.
And it's really difficult if you want to color coordinate with any news colors. The red.
It's so red. I mean, I guess if you really wanted to, you could go for, like, instead of the energy guys, use like a grayscale or something. But I guess gray is also could be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you have good contrast, but yeah.
Right. Are any of the logos just black and white?
Yes,
Or are they all red?
we do. We do have just a black and white. They should have versions of them. They do.
I don't use them.
Mm-mm. They're not. It's not anything that is readily like used like on campus for much of anything. But we do have them. Yes, we do have them because I remember when I was in Docheo, we had to have them for certain things that we were doing. Especially for like contract work and stuff like that, you want to have something that's in black and white so that it's able to be understood and it's not grainy or whatever that is.
I'm looking at the NNU visual style guide.
No, you're good. I had that printed off for the longest time.
I think it was somewhere.
Were you able to figure out who participated yesterday?
No.
You said Jeff Edmiston.
I know that he was on because he subscribed to my channel. So at that point in time, that is how I knew that he was on. So, okay, well, we'll get started, and it's brief, so we'll make it. It's just an overview, and then we are here to provide additional information and or assistance in anything that you might need, want, have questions about, all of that good stuff. Okay. So this is our introduction to accessibility here at NNU. So there are two basic reasons why we're talking about this and why we're bringing it out. The first one is because there is federal guidelines that stipulate certain things that we as an institution have to do. And there are three basic federal mandates that have come down or come into law that we have to adhere to. So the first one is the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it was created in the 90s, and it basically is a civil law or civil rights law, that prohibits discrimination based on disability and certain things like that. It also has a lot of caveats that are built into it to help people with disabilities have specific protections. So rolled into ADA is what is called Section 504, which is basically anything to do with education, public schools, and any school system. We have to abide by this Section 405, something totally different. And it came out of what was called the Rehabilitation Act of 73, which then got rolled into ADA. So welcome to, you just got a whole like federal law overview, right? In the span of all of 5 minutes.
You should work for the federal.
So the only reason that I know all this information is because I literally lived and breathed this for like 2 weeks. And that's all I did was just like dove in and tried to swim. It's so deep. Oh my gosh, it's so deep. Okay, so it is a provision within ADA. And again, it lived outside, but now it lives within inside. The second one is Section 508, which this one has to do with the Workforce Rehabilitation Act. Yes, I got it And this one deals specifically with electronic information technology. So anything that is communicated electronically, emails, anything would be on a website, right? All of those things. Now, it specifically states to more of like a government or federal entity. However, because we, as a private institution, accept federal funds through financial aid, we have to adhere to all federal laws. So just like a public school has to adhere to them for special education purposes and things like that, we have to adhere to them because we accept financial aid. So in essence, the majority of the laws that govern a public institution in certain regards, we also have to follow. So there are some that we don't because there's like separations, right? And there's differentiations, but for the most part, in this respect, we have to. There's no gray area. There is no like, it's very much a black or a white thing. It's we expect you to do this, and we make the rules. So we just say, okay. Another thing that we are talking about here is it's called UDL, or Universal Design for Learning. It is a set of principles that basically help us as instructors or designers or things of that nature basically create this blueprint that help all individuals access the information in our course at a better level. So it's not just designed for accessibility needs, although accessibility needs are rolled into this. So for example, what it really is talking about is looking at how people learn from a cognitive level and saying, okay, if you have a video, what would help what would help all people gather that information? So it could be that there's a transcript available. It could be that there's up-to-date closed captions that are available with that video. It could be, a number of supplemental materials that you're going to have along with it, right? It could be a number of different things. And the reason why is because everybody has a kind of a different avenue in which they learn the best in and with. And so it's kind of helping every one of those types of learners to be able to get the information that they need, how they need it. It also is a great standard because you never know where people are going to be learning, especially because we have so many students that aren't traditional in a sense, where they come to the classroom and they sit and they gather or they get information. A lot of them are stay-at-home moms, or they're working for 3 jobs. They maybe are first-time college students, right? And so they're trying to figure out how this whole thing works with what it is that they're doing over here. So we really have to look at how we're disseminating our information in a way that is the most beneficial for everybody involved. And again, universal design, we could sit here all day and talk about UDL because I love it. And the more that I learn about it, the more that I love it. And the more I realize, man, we have lots of work to do in a good way, in a really good way. So this is just an overview kind of graphic about what they're talking about, the 3 different aspects that they utilize or look at when they're talking about universal design. So it has the ability for recognition, the strategic networks, and the effective networks. And so it's all about how information is utilized and stored, and then how the learner engages with it. And so it's all about helping the brain learn better, which helps the person learn better. Okay, so for us as a university, our why, so the reason why we want to really jump on the bandwagon is a wrong term, but come together as a university with accessibility initiatives. The reason why we want to is because, first of all, and Shanae said this so eloquently that I totally adopted it and put it in here. And so we create with accessibility and universal design because it's vital to our mission, right? So if you look at the tenet of transformation, it's the transformation of the whole person. And it speaks to each one of the values that we have of transformation, truth, community, and service. So for us, it's not just about doing this because it's a federal guideline and it's a box to check, right? And it's something that we have to do for accreditation or whatever we want to add to this. It really is because as a university, it's our mandate. It's who we are. And we as NNU need to not be comfortable with just getting by, but we need to be the ones that are going to set the bar higher, right? So we need to be challenging ourselves and saying, listen, we need to do this because it's the right thing to do. And yes, it might be some work, and yeah, it might be challenging, but we're going to do it because it's right. And this is what our students deserve, and this is what we're gonna give to them. Okay, so all of that to say that here's a really good overview of some key concepts as far as adding things, making things accessible for just general ideas and things like that you can use for your course. And then the document, is that the one that Crystal gave you? Awesome. That is a spectacular document as well. So that's a great resource as well. And then we're going to go, we're available. So each one of us has the ability and is willing to help. So we can come to you, we can give you information and direct you to pieces of information if that's the way you want to go, or we're more than happy to, start putting some things together and come and talk to groups of people and things like that as well. So if your department wants more information, we can come and sit down and say, okay, how would this work as a department, right? What could you guys start to look at departmentally to start to move things forward to that level, or where we're going with this? Some of these are easy. Okay, some of them are easy fixes. Some of them are a little more challenging. Nothing here, though, that one of the things I love about some of the ideas here is that nothing is really difficult to accomplish or do, right? So it's not, I think sometimes people think that making changes for accessibility is this all-encompassing, time-consuming endeavor that's going to take me hours upon hours of my life. And yes, there's time involved, but as you're creating things, it's literally a couple of additional clicks, or it's doing one thing instead of bolding, it's making a heading, right? So you're literally, it's trading one action item for another action item is all that it really is. You're supplementing at that point. For example, headings. That was a good segue. So we use headings versus basically bolding or things like that. And why we do that is because with a screen reader, right, that technology, it allows the person who is actually listening to. So the screen reader is technology that literally reads the text on the screen and then is reading it, as saying it, I guess is what I'm saying, to the person, they're listening to it. And then it allows them to basically navigate quickly through the document. So the screen reader is able to basically ascertain the structure of whatever it's reading to the person, and then they have the ability via commands to be able to skip around and look at specific pieces, right, and go to the next piece or go here or go here. So think of it kind of like what we would use as an outline. That's what the screen reader allows them to have the ability to do when the document is formatted correctly. When it's not formatted in the right way, they can still read it. It doesn't give them the same functionality to be able to go where they need to go. Where we visually can say, oh, indentation, I got it, makes sense. This is our hierarchy of information. The screen reader is doing all of that work for them, which I really think that if we have the ability to talk to the whole faculty, giving them an understanding of what it sounds like through a screen reader is a necessity, because I had no idea.
Run it live.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I had no idea. And I think until you actually hear what it reads and sounds like, it is completely mind-blowing at that point. Okay, all of that to say. So those are headings. They're really easy to use in Word especially. There's a toolbar at the very top, it's on the right-hand side, and you can actually set them. So you can go in and edit them. You can change the font if you want. You can change the size of them if you want them a specific size or whatever. So you can edit them a little, but they're all built in. And there's like H1 headings, which are the big like top tier ones. And you've got H2, H3, H4. You can add things to that list, but in Word especially, they're already built in. I think Google has some of those as well.
Canvas has it.
Canvas has them as well. So they're, yes. Yes. So they're all of that stuff is built in. Some of the things that I like about especially Canvas or Word is that you don't have to know a lot of coding or anything else like that to build these in, to make things accessible, right? They have tools that are now kind of built into either Canvas or into Word that allow you to do it very easily, which is nice. So this one is a really common one. So if you have images that are built in or you added them to your page or document or something else like that, adding what's called alternative text or alt text to them. So basically what happens is you as a person that doesn't have a visual impairment, you see the image. A screen reader is going to read whatever the description of that image is. So let's say it's a picture of, I used yesterday Monet's painting by Monet. If the title of that picture is like image 561493124, whatever, it's going to read that. Whereas we'll see an image. Okay, so what alternate text does is it actually allows you to go in and title or put a description of what that particular image is. So you could go in and say a picture of Monet's whatever painting, right? You can put that in, and then the screen reader will read that. So the person who's being read to will understand or have the ability to understand that this image is what this is. It's one of those things, again, that just helps build, especially for those people that use that assistive technology, a better picture of what it is that the information is within either the document or in the page in Canvas or whatever that is. You're helping really build the best, if we're going back to universal design, way for their brain to understand the information. Please, and jump in, ladies, at any moment in time if you have something to add, okay? Yes.
So quick note back to headings. You want to use those headings in numerical order.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Like heading 1
Yep.
is going to be your biggest font and
Most important.
boldest.
Yep.
2, 3, 4. So that the person using a screen reader can tell the organizational structure more or less.
Kind of like Roman numerals in an outline.
Yes.
Yes. Another thing about images, if it's simply a decorative image, it's just there to provide some interest. You don't really need to put in alt text.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually put in something called null, N-U-L-L. In Canvas, there's actually now going to be a box to check that says this is decorative, so just ignore
pass it by. Yep. And so the screen reader will actually do that. And the nice thing too about Canvas is that so there's different ratings as far as accessibility is concerned based on WCAG 2.0, which is it's universal standards that everybody uses for web design and information, but basically it's accessible over the internet. And so there's a A rating, a AA rating, and a AAA rating. So they're based on an increasing scale. So the more A's you have, the more accessible your website is or your content is. And so Canvas has maintained a AAA rating for, oh my gosh, I think ever since they were created or started with their learning management system. So it's one of the best and most accessible tools that's out there, and they're constantly striving to make it better and better and better.
That said, what the instructor puts into Canvas,
yes,
the onus is on the instructor
yes.
to make it.
So it's the Canvas navigational.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, and they're very upfront about that. They've said, hey, this is our stuff, and we'll get to this in a minute too. This is our stuff. Here's our structure. Here's how we've kind of put things together. What you add to this now, we'll give you tools to help you make this more accessible, but it's like Crystal said, it is on us to what we put in, our documents, our PDFs, any of the information that we put in our pages, all the assessments, all of that information is on us to make that accessible. Canvas has done the bulk of the work to make getting to the information accessible and easy to use. We now are tasked with it on the other end. So this is what we were talking about in the beginning. So the color contrast and usage of colors. Amy was making a comment about how she's kind of upset that she's not able to use specific colors anymore. It's just one of those things where you have to be really careful in how you're using color. For two reasons. First of all, people that have a visual impairment, so color blindness, they're not actually able to see specific hues or tones of color. And so at that point in time, if you're using like a let's say a red, for example, to bring awareness or to add some sort of flair or variety to your Canvas page, those people may actually not even see that text at all. It will just look like a white background. They won't even see it. So at that point in time, they're going to miss all of whatever that information is. And even though you've highlighted it to make it known that it's important, they're going to miss all of that. So it's using colors that are, or a scheme in a way to where people are able to actually visually see what it is that's happening. So they talk about if you want to use like a red color, for example, that the background behind that is of such a contrast that even if the person can't see the physical font color, they'll be able to pick it out of the dissonance between the background color. So like a red and a black, right? Kind of a thing. And then again, using pastels or very light versions. I was at visiting a page for a faculty member and they were using yellow. Now, yellow is a pretty color and I like yellow. It reminds me of the sun, and especially in the wintertime or when it's cold outside, it's beautiful. However, on a white background, I don't have a visual impairment and I see fine. It's hard for me to pick some of that stuff out. So I know that if I'm struggling with it, right, I know other people are going to do the same thing. And that's where we kind of get into this universal design of, yes, it may be fun and it might have some flair to it and it might make things, you may feel that it's different and you're being kind of, I don't know, let's say hip, right? You know, whatever you want to say. And that's fine, but we just need to make sure that there is something behind it. You know what I mean? We're taking an extra step to do something. There is this great web color checker that I love. I love this website. I brought it out yesterday, and I think it's seriously still one of my favorite things to be able to show. So it literally, it gives you the ability here to look at different colors. So for example, here's our foreground color, which is this blue, and we can come in here and change it to whatever hue color that we want. And then you've got a background color. So as you can see here, if our font color is red, actually, let's go back. I'll find you the really cool, see, okay, now we're almost in that really cool yellow color. Okay, so you'll see here that here's this cool yellow color, right? And you can see it on the white background. So you see, it was like so difficult for me to see. And you'll see here that according to the WCAG guidelines, it fails right across the board. So this is where, when we're talking about background color now, you would want to come in here and you would want to change things. So now, as you can see, right, the darker my background color gets, I start to be able to pass those accessibility standards so that people, no matter what they have or whatever they might need, will be able to see that. So that's what we're talking about, right, is maybe you have a text box and you have some color in it, and you now add a background color. So that way it's dark and it has the ability to kind of like stand out and people are able to see it. So this is a great place to be able to look at colors, to see what's going to work, to see what's going to be accessible and acceptable, and something that's going to be able to be seen.
Yeah.
I don't think
You can add it, you can write it.
it's in, well, because Crystal mentioned something in there about color. So it's in there. This particular web resource isn't. However, we can add it to that document and make sure that you guys, that it's on there. It's a great point.
So here's what I want to do. The local station that I watch the news of in the mornings has changed their graphics, and they're too difficult to see now. And I want to go to the color checker and say, here's the colors they're using. Is that usable? No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Send it off to them and say,
Might want to change that.
You should.
You need to. So
I've had trouble with the Taco Bell menu.
uh-huh.
Have you seen the Taco Bell menu?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that the color was wrong, it's that the font is wrong.
Mhm.
Or reading from that distance that you have to read a menu.
Yes. So taking off this hat and putting on a different hat, as a freelance graphic designer, one of the things that we were taught when I went to school was that especially you're building signage and things like that from a distance, you have a lot of things to take into consideration. That's not the time where you're going to get fun and flowery with your fonts and things like that. You know, if you have a sign, it needs to be able to be seen from a great distance away, and you need.
Nobody should use Old English ever.
Some people feel like, again, it's that let's be fun. And there's a time and a place for fun. It's not necessarily right there. Okay, moving on. This might be the bane of my accessibility thing, because I was notorious and I still find things where I've done this. So you make a link, right? And you're talking about something, and instead of describing said link, you put here's my sentence, and then you put the words click here. And then the click here, you highlight and add the link to that. Okay, well, when we're talking about accessibility, the problem with that is a screen reader, it becomes very confusing because there isn't necessarily a specific place. I can visually see what it is that I'm talking about when I have eyeballs, okay? If I'm not able to see that on the screen and it's reading it to me, that becomes very cumbersome because I'm not necessarily, it says click here. Well, click where, right? I miss what that means. So instead of us putting the words click here or whatever that is, we're actually being descriptive about the link and giving information about what physically the link is linked to. So I love Penn State. We talked about this yesterday. I love their resources, especially their accessibility stuff that they have. So for example, that's what we're talking about. So you can see here's their click here for instructions on how to use this new web tool. Okay. Whereas a usable would be instructions for the new Penn State web tool are available online. So we're giving a description of what the link is actually linking to.
And you still don't have to put the full URL. You just have to tell them. It's kind of like the alt text, right?
Yes.
You have to tell them what they're clicking on.
Yes. Yes, because a screen reader is going to read that and it's going to say instructions for the new Penn State web tool. And then it's going to say, I think it's like URL or linked to or something like that, which a person who's hearing that understands that right there is a link to this particular specific document, right? It says instructions for the new Penn State web tool. I now understand that the link, it's a link, so I can click on it or have my screen reader do that, and it will take me out to where I need to go for that information, right?
Also the click here, the screen readers will allow you to skim the links. And so if you have 20 places on your web page that say click here, there's no quick way to actually skim it. And that's especially why it's helpful to say syllabus PDF, syllabus Word. So if I'm skimming really quickly, using my hearing, right, I can say, oh, I remember it started with syllabus and skip ahead versus, oh, which click here was it? No,
that's a great point. And so again, so you're looking at these ones, these next four examples right here. Okay, it's the exact same thing of if a screen reader is reading that on the top one, it just says read more. It is no context for me of what I'm reading more about. And so now I'm confused. Whereas the bottom one says story 1, read more. Okay, so now I know I'm reading more about this story. I'm reading more about the second story. Or I'm registering for Accessibility 101 or Accessibility 102 instead of just our link that says register, right? If I'm skimming, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm registering for. I'm confused. And so it's just, again, it seems like something that we should just take for granted. However, we have done things so the same for so long that we've just gotten into that repetition of this is just how I do this, right? And because we have this great tool in Canvas that allows us to import stuff from our master shell or wherever, we've set it a certain way and we've left it. And so now it's the time it takes to go back in and actually fix all of those things. But that's beautiful too, because now it's a one-time fix and now it's saved and I don't have to go back in and fix it unless I change a link or update a document, right? Or do something like that. Again, so Canvas has this great information on accessibility. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it just because it's out there in the Canvas community for anybody to go and look at. It's great. It talks about there, again, for WCAGs and why they do what they do and all of those things. And so they have, again, the screen readers that they support. So they support the voiceover technology that's built into Safari. They support JAWS. They support NVDA, which I haven't seen used. You have that one?
It's a free one.
Okay.
It's a free one, yeah.
Right, and that one works with Firefox. So it's beautiful. So you've got Safari, they've got Internet and Edge, Internet Explorer and Edge, and then they've got Firefox. And I'm waiting for Google to get on the bandwagon. I'm not really sure why they don't have one yet. They have everything else for a plugin, but they don't have a screen reader yet built in for Chrome.
Well, I mean, there is a Chrome extension you can get.
Yes.
It's awful.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I don't know if that one is actually designed by, if Google actually built that or if somebody else built that for Chrome. Do you know what I mean? If it's a third party. Right. And I know what you're talking about, and you're right, it's terrible. It really is. So it's also why we tell people, especially like the two main browsers that we talk about using Canvas in is Chrome and Firefox, right? Between those two. And so again, if you have or need a screen reader, Firefox is your way to go. I actually really like Firefox. I'm not going to say that out loud. Just backing up. I was going to go on a little tangent about the new Firefox and how awesome it is, but I'm going to back up for a minute. Okay. All right. So here's another really cool thing about screen readers and kind of what they do. And then the Canvas-wide accessibility components. They have these great keyboard shortcuts as well for people that need them, which are awesome. And again, it also speaks a little bit to UDL. So you may not have an accessibility need for the shortcuts, but you may want to on the keyboard, and you realize how much faster you might be able to enter grades and do things like that. They're really cool. And then again, they've got some other things about their accessibility with the specific features. Lastly, there is this really cool tool called UDL. So we have it installed in our instance of Canvas. And I'm working with the guys from Central Florida to get the newest version. I think they have, it's like 2.3 or 2.4, something like that. I can't remember which one it is now. But we should have that updated and installed here within the next week or so. I'm really excited about that. They've added a few other tools, but what it basically is it's a tool that's built into Canvas, and it will scan all of these pieces of your course. So we'll look at your announcements, your assignments, discussions, your files, pages, the syllabus, and the module, the URLs and the modules. And it will kick you out a report that tells you the things that are not accessible. And then you can actually click on them, and it will help you fix those things. So if it's an image, it will give you a spot to add your alt text, and then you just click save, and it adds it right to it. You can go in and it will talk to you about URL links, right? So instead of you having a link that is HTTP, s:// whatever, it will tell you, write some descriptive text that describes this link so that a screen reader is going to read that and not the actual URL link, because it will read every character of a URL link, however long it is. So, right? So if it's 280 characters, it will read every single one of those characters. It's horrible. It's horrible. It really is horrible.
HTTP.
What's that?
Yeah, you do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
So if I wanted to look at my course, where is it in Canvas?
So I will show you. So if you go to,
Go to any course.
yeah.
Should be in the settings.
Yep. So it's right down here on the navigation. If you don't see it down here, hold on, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. Ooh, that was too much. So if you don't see it right here, this is the tool. You can go in your settings, and under navigation, it might be down here in this grayed out area. And then you can click on it and drag it up to enable it, or you can click on this little wheel and click enable, right? And then come over here and click save. And then it'll add it back over here. And so when you click on this, it takes you to this page, which takes a second to load because it's kicking out to Central Florida and then pinging back.
Going to the beach.
It really is. Okay, so here's all this, and then you can pick. So maybe you just want to look at your announcements, or maybe you just want to look at the discussions, right, or whatever. If you just want to look at one particular thing, you can just click that, and then you click Run Scanner, and it will scan the whole thing. And depending on how much information and documents and PDFs and right all of this other stuff that you have, it may take a few minutes for it to actually go through. Now, here's one thing it doesn't do. It does not give you information on your physical documents that are there. So if you have a PDF, it won't tell you if that PDF is accessible or not, right? That's a whole other thing that you have to work through. It won't tell you if your Word document is accessible or not. It just talks about the content that's in Canvas itself. Okay? So as you can see, in my sandbox, which is, I'm fine with this because it's not my actual course that students see, I have 151 errors and 59 suggestions. But this is what's cool, right? So here's in this right here, there's actual errors. So you can see, right, the font for this should not be used. Okay, so you can go in and see where this actually is, right? And so it'll tell me. So then I can go in and I can fix that. Let me see what else they might have. I didn't necessarily want to like go there. Thanks though. Yeah, so see, here's this thing too, right? So here's your headings, right? Make sure that you're using structure. So again, you can see that it's going to go through and it's going to let you really look at all these other things. It's going to give you the errors, and then some of them have these abilities right here to fix it. So here's my alt text, right? So I can come in here. If I want to see what it is, I can actually view the source of this one, and then it'll take me to the page. Well, it would take me to the page. And then I can come in and I can add whatever descriptive text I want and then hit submit. And then it attaches it right there. But that's, again, it's really cool. I really like it. We've been really pleased with it since we've installed it. And my understanding of the new version is that it actually is a little easier to fix things. And they've worked on that whole feature, which is it's a little better. And it has a few more accessibility standards that are included in that. Canvas also has in their rich content editor, they have an accessibility checker as well. So for example, so in here, if I'm coming in and I'm doing stuff in here, there is this, there. So this little circle guy that's right here is the new rich content editor accessibility checker. Depending on where you look in the community, some people like what they've done with it, and some people still say it's a great start. It's not where it should be. And I think Canvas is well aware that it's not where they want it to be yet, and they're working on making it better, but they knew that they needed something. And so they were willing to start, I guess, kind of wherever. But if you click on this, it'll tell you over here if there is accessibility issues that it can see or determine or not. So, and then if there are accessibility issues, it will tell you what they are over here. You can click on them, you can fix them. So it's kind of like you do it in a way, but it's basically just built in the rich content editor. So it's not going to look at everything. It's going to look at certain things. Yeah.
My green passes.
Yeah, right.
Oh, nice. I think this tool that Jesse's showing right now works really nicely when you're building content and you're right there on the page that you've just created. You do a quick check and then fix it.
But not for checking that whole course.
Well, I mean, it's just a one at a time thing. You do it as a whole lot of
comprehensive.
You know. It just depends on what you're needing to fix.
Yes. Yes. So, and then for those of you that came today, we'll send you out a short survey based on some questions and kind of assess some needs and things like that. And then this is a link to the accessibility guide that Crystal created that is terrific. It's a spectacular resource. That way you guys can go out there and take a look at that as well. And again, this is something that we really are very passionate about, have been for a while. And it's something that we're going to continue to kind of charge and take on and say, you know, our hope is that every single person on campus is working on this. And again, I don't expect everybody to be an expert. You don't have to be. That's why we're here, right? We're here to help, and we're here to kind of guide people and do things like that. So that really is it. It was like super down and dirty, right? It's like kind of a fire hose, but it's just, here's where we're at. Here's kind of some ideas. And now when you look at things, we're here to help.
Yeah, I didn't realize we had this. This is very helpful for me because I'm thinking of one nursing student who has visual help.
Mhm.
She's